So today we're going to finally take a look at the Fairlight. It's been a long time in coming, and instead of sampling, I really want to take a look at the wavetable synthesis. Now, one of the challenges we're going to have is I don't have a light pen, and light pens won't work on this LCD screen, so we'll have to actually punch in the waveforms manually, and that's not as hard as it sounds. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to zero out the wave that we've got in there, so we're starting from a blank canvas. Let's do that now. So there's a few ways I can go about this. The easiest way I always find is just to come back to the menu and just load a blank patch. So we're going to start with an absolutely empty waveform. So the first thing we're going to do is start with just a bass harmonic in here, and we'll put that right up to the full value of 255, and you can see not much has happened besides a little glitch that I get. For some reason my Fairlight likes to just put the number 6 in random places, occasionally other characters as well. We'll see more of that later, but I've sort of grown to just, it's part of the character. So the way we can actually now create a waveform from that harmonic is to go compute, and I can either just type C or I can type the word compute, or if I had a light pen I could just click on compute. So let's compute that waveform, and you can see we've got a really nice fundamental harmonic there. So I've done this in segment 32, and I'll explain more about the segments in a moment because I didn't want to do it in 32. So let's go, so let's zero that out. Let me go up, let's go to segment 1. $2.55, compute. I've recreated that waveform in segment 1 now, and that means if I press a key, you get a really short If we take a look at page D, you can see we've only actually got a sine wave for, if we say this is a second, it's 1/28th of a second. So that's all we're going to get. So we can go back to page 6, and I can actually go merge that from 1 to 1/28. And if we let it sit there and compute for a few moments, now if we have a look at page D, we've got something a bit more impressive. So we've taken our sine wave and we've merged it with nothing, so it slowly decreases over time to the point where we're back to no sound. Nice if you just want a bass. Nice if you want bass sounds, but not really that interesting. So let's make it a bit more complex. Let's go back to page 5. So right at the very last segment, let's make a really complex set of harmonics. So let's go 255 there, and these are just random values that I'm creating just to see what happens. And this is one of the super fun things that you can just play with numbers and let it compute and see what you come up with. So let's compute that. So that's quite complex. Let's go back to page 6 and let's now extrapolate that out. So if I go merge segment 1 to segment 1/28, let's run it. Let's now have a look at page D, and we should have something a bit more complex. What does this sound like? So it's starting to sound more and more like a wavetable. So let's now make this a lot more complex. So let's go back to page 5 and we shall have, let's create 4 different unique parts of the wavetable and then we'll extrapolate between them. So 128, which means the next one should be 32 if we want to keep it even. Let's just create some random values again. 99. We'll just stick with 99. Let's compute. So that's quite complex. Next one would be, let's go up, 64. And let's go basey again. Let's go 128. Whoops. 3, 32, 64, 55, 88. Compute. And 64, 128. And let's go to segment 96. 96. And let's go a little wild in the higher harmonics. So let's go 99, 255, 255, 255. Let's compute that. Alright, so you can see that one's going to run really fast. That's going to be quite high pitched as well as not overly complex. So let's see what happens. So this time on page 6, what we have to do is go merge 1 to 32, merge 32 to 64, merge 64 to 96, and merge 96 to 128. So now I should have a really complex waveform that changes 4 times over its cycle. So let's go to page D. So we can see there's our first sine wave, that morphs there, changes there, and eventually ends up there. Let's see what it sounds like. So one of the challenges we have now is it sounds really great, but it's far too short and it stops, which is fine if that's what you want, but I'd prefer it to be a lot longer. So the way we're going to do that is we go to page 7 and we treat it like we would treat any normal sample. Let's create a loop. So let's turn on looping. And that's our first harmonic. That's the sine wave that we created right at the very beginning. So what we can do here, and this is really amazing. I mean, you've got to remember this is 1983, about the time that MIDI got added to the CMI, if I remember correctly. And it's amazing how much of an implementation you have here. So I can use the control surface on the Nord lead to actually control some of the features on the Fairlight. Let's have a go at that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to be able to travel across the wavetable via the mod wheel. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to go controller 2, which is the mod wheel, And if I didn't know that, we've actually got the output of the controllers down here. So if I move the mod wheel, you can see that's controller 2. If I move that one, that's controller 3, controller 4. Pretty easy stuff. So now we'll start in the wavetable wherever the mod wheel is actually located. So I've set that up. So we'll now start the loop wherever the mod wheel's located. So if we think of the mod wheel from 0, and that's going to be 128, so wherever it is on that path, we'll actually start the loop of the wave. But that doesn't mean the wave's actually going to start there. So if I show you, it'll go. So if I want to travel across the wavetable at my own speed, instead of actually having it just loop at one point, we can actually change the start segment to also be controller 2. So if I now grab hold of that, there's our big sine wave fundamental, and I can slowly travel backwards and forwards across that wavetable. So I hope you've enjoyed the tour around the wavetable side of the Fairlight. I think it's a lot more versatile than many people actually give it credit for. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments. There's a reason. I'm not just going for creating comments to create views. If you let me know in the comments that you actually enjoyed these wavetables and you'd like to hear more of them, I'll create a sample pack and I'll share them freely with the channel. So let me know. Let me know if you want a sample pack and we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.